Hi. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I've got someone really fascinating for you to listen to today. So this is Daryl, and he's from the Free World Shamanic Healing Centre, and he's a shaman, a healer. He does amazing things. So we've been having a chat. So like I do with everyone that I get on the podcast, we have a little chat first, and it ends up going off into a tangent. So we talked about all sorts of subjects. But some of the things that we're going to hit on today is about the work that we do within the shamanic world and some of the healing practices and things we do, and also plant medicines as well. So this is something I'm really fascinated about. I'm not actually tried any myself, but then maybe I will do sometime soon when if I can connect to Daryl. So Daryl, how long have you been a shaman for? How long have you been practicing doing your work?
I started in my late teens for myself because I didn't trust religion. I didn't like religion. I didn't trust it. My family are not a very religious family either,
Yeah.
so I never had that pushed down my throat. Um, and to me, it was a very strong interest. So it kind of really started. I walked around three different bookstores, and the same book jumped off the bookshelf in front of me three times.
Oh,
That was the book was Native Healer
yeah.
by Robert Medicine Grizzly Bear Lake, and it wasn't until because I'd worked in a bookstore, so I just put the book back up, clean up the floor kind of thing, and then I looked at it and I thought, oh, this is the same cover three times. Maybe I should really read it,
Mm,
and that really gave me an interest in the shamanic work.
yeah.
And I've just been very lucky to have different teachers and elders that maybe recognized what I was doing more than I did. Um, to the point I remember having a dream about an American Indian in a cowboy suit, and he turned out to be real. He was an Apache shaman,
Yeah.
and it was a good first lesson because I said to him like, "What's the deal with an American Indian being in a cowboy suit? Like American, cowboys and Indians." And he looked at me and just said, "I'm a professional rodeo rider." So it's
Okay.
like bring it back to the basics, Sherlock Holmes. Look at the real stuff first.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. So we'd had a mutual friend called Ross Haven,
Yep.
and he wrote quite a few books. I think I've got three of his. Sadly, he's no longer with us, but he probably was my inspiration to start. I never bought any other books before that. His was the first books that I got on shamanism and used to read his stuff. He also mentions plant medicines in those as well. But as I said, I've not tried them. But you actually do hold retreats. You facilitate.
Yep. Ross, uh, Ross, what is who I considered to be my last teacher, and when I was in Australia before I came to Europe, I was walking down the street, and I had friends on this side, and on this side I heard "cut me" and "cook me," and I turned around, there was no one there. So I asked them, "Did you hear that?" And they're like, "Hear what?" Then I heard very clearly "cut me" and "cook me." So I had a better look, and there was a big cactus in somebody's front yard.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I thought, it's not every day a cactus is going to speak to you. So I waited till it was dark, went back, cut a big section off, cooked it, uh, somehow knew how to cook it,
Yeah.
and drank 5 cups. And that night, everything changed for me. So then coming to Europe, there was a link. Somebody put a link of the Hummingbird's Journey to God,
Yeah,
which was Ross's first book about San Pedro.
yeah.
So that's where I found out about his books. So I bought that one, Plant Medicine Shamanism, but it was the Sin Eater books that I really caught my eye. So I sort of went away, came back, and they were on the floor. The plant books I put up on straight up on the bookshelf, and I got into the sin eating books.
Yeah.
So when I started to read the first one, a good friend of mine passed away. And then when I'd finished the second one of my favorite aunties had passed away. So I thought there's no coincidence on this.
Mm.
Got in touch with Ross to say thank you, like the book's meant a bit. And he said, like, well, look, maybe we'll meet up, and sent me a list of what he did for the year. So I planned to do something else which didn't work. And then I thought, oh, he's doing some training, I'll go to Spain.
Yeah.
So that's where I met Ross. And from there, he taught me to ask a question from nature. And the answer to that question was basically, if I really wanted to go above and beyond, I needed to go to the Amazon and the Andes. So he told me he was going there as well. And I said, no, I want to learn an old master's technique, painting technique for 3D.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was fine with that. And it wasn't until in the same year I was making my drum in Norway. And I realized I'd asked the question and I'd been given the answer. If I didn't listen to the answer, I was out of my own integrity. So I said, yep, I'll go. So went to the jungle, into the Amazon to do dyada work, healing work, which is great to be a participant. I miss being a participant. And then we went to the Andes for San Pedro. It was in the San Pedro ceremony. Pedro gave me a vision. And when I popped back up and was back here again, I realized that all these coincidences was a thread going back to the cut me and cook me. And Ross was a major part of that.
Yeah. Can I just ask, but how did you feel after drinking all of that?
Oh, great. Honestly, I liked it. It didn't taste so good, but there was a body memory of this is really, really good. I had no idea it was San Pedro. We weren't in ceremony.
Yeah.
I felt like a bit of a tiger in a cage as well. I'd go in a little bit, but I was out. But visually, it was good. The next 2 days was beautiful. Like with San Pedro, it's mescaline based.
Right.
So it's not ayahuasca hammer with DMT, with the visuals. But the day after, the world looks like it's been cleaned.
Oh, wow.
So I was at a beach I've been to 100 times before, and I was looking at it like it was the first time. And I knew it was the cactus was involved, but I didn't know exactly. So Pedro kind of tricked me to come to Europe. One of the people I was with was a Swedish girl, and we got loved up. I came to Sweden, and she now doesn't live here in Sweden. She lives in Austria, and I'm still here doing my work.
Yeah.
So Pedro doing ceremonies. I've been lucky to do ceremonies around Europe.
Yeah.
And 1 year in Hungary, Pedro sort of tapped me on the shoulder and said, look, I did trick you to leave home, but I want you to know you've got more than one home. And I feel blessed to be able to live in Europe.
Yeah. Have you done all of the plant medicines then? Have you tried all of them?
All of them except Iboga.
Okay.
I have a very healthy respect for Iboga. Iboga is initially with a Bwiti cold. It's an initiation from childhood to adulthood. I don't have heroin addiction or anything like that. So I don't tend to drink it. And I have enough respect for the plants that, you know, they're not an amusement park.
Yeah. How did you get on with ayahuasca?
Loved ayahuasca. Was absolutely terrified. I was talking to the spirit of ayahuasca 2 weeks before I left to go to the Amazon and saying, please, I've heard so many stories, be kind, be gentle. And she was, and it's beautiful medicine.
Good. Yeah.
She's the tough mother that will smack your ass. Very intense thing. Being able to work in ceremonies as a plant shaman, I can work with ayahuasca. I don't lead ayahuasca ceremonies because it's not my plant.
Yeah.
But if I'm asked to work in them, I can navigate.
You can do that, yeah.
Learn a lot, do a lot, feel a lot. You know, like with ayahuasca, the next day you can fall in love with a blade of grass. You know, a very amazing plant. But as I say to people, if you go and have these plants, whether it's Pedro, ayahuasca, or niños, the mushrooms, or even marijuana, it's like if you sit in someone's house, you're watching their TV, you're eating their food, and you're on their couch, but you don't talk to them, they're going to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
These plants have a spirit.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to connect to. It's not how much you drink.
Yeah.
It's how you work with the plant.
Yeah. I always thought like if I did it, I would want to expand my consciousness. So I think I would see a lot more. That would be my plan if to do it, if when I get a chance to do it, just to see what it opens up for me. But some people have a bit of a hard time, don't they, with it as well?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She's pretty intense, the old Mama Aya. But again, it's like if you diet plays a big part because
Mm,
it reverses the inhibitors. So what your body would normally reject, it takes in. So your diet is very crucial for, and it's better to be clean.
yeah.
You know, you don't work a week and then Friday go into ceremony. It's not going to be an easy ceremony Friday night
Mm,
because you're
yeah.
taking all that stuff from the week. So, and it's a purgative. You know, she's called El Purgo for a reason. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, beautiful medicine. We always want to see what we want to see, but
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
we're coming from here. They
Yeah.
got the big picture. So,
I know. Yeah, it's a risk you take, isn't it, whether you're going to be purging all night or seeing wonderful things. But
well,
yeah,
if you've been good with your diet leading up to the
yeah,
retreat, to the
yeah,
ceremony, you will you will purge, but
yeah.
you won't be purging all night.
No, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you're
I'm
doing
quite,
that, if you were purging all night in a ceremony, I'd come up look for an entity.
yeah. Well, I think, I don't know about you, but when I do any of my shamanic type healings, I always get the clients to watch their diet for a few days beforehand, not drinking alcohol and maybe not so much meat and just eat vegetables and drink lots of water. I get them to be as clear as I can for when I'm going in, having a little look. Do you still do that?
No,
Do you,
I would rather people bring all their problems.
or would you? Going to deep dive into all of that. I just find on an energetic level, I find it easier to work with someone that's had a bit of a
Oh,
detox beforehand.
I agree 100%. But like I've learned being in a Western person, being a city boy, you know, I know there's certain practicalities to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will come to me out of emergency straight up anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You wouldn't have had a chance.
So, yeah, I just, if there's something to do after, then I add that as their homework.
Yeah.
But in
Okay.
retreats, we definitely have pre retreat diet and post retreat requirements.
Yeah. And you also work with mushrooms as well. So what's the take on that one? Because that's obviously slightly different as well. What do you use the mushroom journey for?
Um, mushrooms, mushrooms are very beautiful, but very intense, and they are about power.
Mm,
So the Aztecs that used to cut people's hearts out and walk around in people's skins, they liked the mushrooms because of that power. That was their medicine of choice. Um, there, a lot of people think that they do healing, and physiologically there are different mushrooms that do the work, but and they can kind of rewire the brain to a
yeah.
point, but they're also like the librarians of the information, so that they can bring forth a lot of information. But they can also be very otherworldly.
Okay. So if someone was starting out on that sort of journey, wanting to try different ones, where would you say they should start? Is there a preference to do it or whatever they're drawn to?
um, a lot of okay, so firstly, a lot of people say, especially lately, mushrooms have become the
Even
flavor
a
of the
thing,
month,
isn't they? Yeah.
and people say, "Oh, I had a mushroom ceremony on the weekend," and I always ask, "Who was your shaman?"
Mm,
And oh, there wasn't one. It's like, well, it's not a ceremony. The
yeah.
shamans make it look easy. We set
Yeah.
up things in the invisible world that
Yeah.
people don't
Yeah.
they don't know. They think we're just handing a cup over,
Yeah.
playing a drum, walking around a room, you know?
Yeah.
But there's a lot in the visible world that we've got to take care of.
Mm,
So, and I say, be honest. If you want to go to a ceremony just to experience the plant,
yeah.
then you say that you have that intention. That's okay. But
Yeah.
don't, you know, you don't turn up and say, I've got all these a list of intentions when all you really want to see is the color.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, as a plant shaman, yeah, as Ross taught, we need to have two master plants. So a master plant is one that will teach. slash heal.
Mm.
So my inner plant is mushrooms. So mushrooms for me are what ayahuasca would also do. You know, to
Okay.
me, mushrooms are like ayahuasca, but with round edges.
Yeah.
Um, my outside plant is San Pedro, and um, ayahuasca and the mushrooms can sort of show you potentials, things that can happen, or you know, out there kind of things, like things maybe you should be needing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas San Pedro is of here, of this world. So you got upper world, middle world, lower world.
Yeah.
Um, the mushrooms and ayahuasca are the upper and lower, but San Pedro's the middle
You
world.
do. Okay.
So he'll show you the relationship to yourself, to your people,
Mm.
and to the environment. And to me, he's never given me something to do that I could not do physically.
Yeah.
You know, so with nothing about Jupiter or Mars, it's all about this world and this life,
Mm.
and beautiful medicine. You know,
Mm.
if you're a fearful person,
Mm.
ayahuasca mushrooms can become very overwhelming.
Yeah.
The mushrooms can dominate. They dominate the other two plants. So they they can give you a really rough ride to the point that you'll never do it again. So I would say an easy way in would be San Pedro because it's very gentle. It's a
Mm.
very long day. You know, like the ceremony will start at, you know, mine would be 10 in the morning till 7 at night. But also as a plant shaman, I don't close the ceremony on my time.
Yeah.
The plants will tell me when it's going to close. So, but Pedro's a very long day. It won't give you more than you can handle. It's kind of like a walk in the park, grandfather with you giving you ice cream compared to Mama Ayahuasca smacking your bum.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, but I've not really met anybody over here in the UK because where are you, in Sweden, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Scandinavia. Yep.
Yeah. Over here that I would trust to actually do any of them, because we would be very aware of what potentially could happen, or if people have a reaction or whatever. So I am aware of that. So I just wouldn't do it here. So it has been on my mind like for years to travel, and when then lockdown came, but travel around and go to places where there are shamans that can hold that space. It's a really it's important. And I don't think sometimes people get a bit mixed up in the spiritual woo woo type stuff and think it's a good idea, don't they? Just to go somewhere and just to try them, just to see and take it quite lightly. I don't know if you've heard of anything where people have taken stuff that is not gone so well for them.
Unfortunately, especially with ayahuasca, a lot of people see it as it's an easy job. You just give the cup over and
Yeah.
maybe put on music or whatever, and it's a ceremony. Um, you really need to trust who's leading the ceremony because
Mm.
they've got to be the representative of the plant.
Yeah.
So if they haven't connected with the spirit or they're not done their training, you know, like you really need training. It's not something you can read a book and then you're in on it.
Yeah.
You've got to know what's going on.
Yeah. I would assume you've got to sit in quite a few of them before you actually facilitate it.
Yep.
Before or
I was doing maybe 4 years of San Pedro ceremony before I was given an apprenticeship.
yeah.
Um, easy 6 years of plants before Ross initiated me into the mushrooms.
Yeah.
So and as I told you that little story when we had our first retreat, so I organised for him to come over, and
Yeah.
he said to me, "Oh, you're not going to be a helper." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Yay! I get to be a participant. I get to lay in and go inside." He's like, "No, you've got to lead." So that was that was a very nervous thing to lead. Mushroom ceremonies, I'm super strict because if they go wrong, they can go very wrong.
Mm.
And we had that situation where Ross, you know, he had the ability that I could trust.
Yeah.
But even our first retreat, he closed the ceremony early because it got infected. And it was later on that he showed me what it means for the ceremony to be infected. So mushrooms work very differently to the other plants. Like, yeah, with ayahuasca, she dominates the room. San Pedro is more open space. You're not stuck on your mat, or the way I've been trained, you're not stuck on your mat. But I don't do night ceremonies with San Pedro. But mushrooms are a different story. They dominate the space.
Mm.
So our example was a girl became very quickly uncontrollably hysterical. And within moments, every woman in the room became uncontrollably hysterical because it just jumped.
Yeah.
So I'm quite strict. I'll say, if you're going to laugh, laugh inside. If you're going to cry, cry inside. If you start moving around, I'll come and tell you to, hold your space, be still.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then I'll close the ceremony early so it doesn't get infected.
Yeah.
And it's, in a way, it's kind of like shaming people, but also the most common thing I've heard is people, first timers, say that they've wanted to run out of the room screaming, but they held their stuff together and they didn't realize that they were so strong.
Yeah.
And again, that's mushrooms. That's the power.
Yeah.
And one encounter with mushrooms can be indelible for the rest of your life. You don't need to do 100 ceremonies. If you're doing 100 ceremonies, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You haven't learned the lesson, or you're not doing what the plants are telling you to do. Because they do healing. Like with San Pedro, as soon as you drink it, you go alkaline, so you're in a non-cancerous state. A lot of emotional trauma can be resolved. That kind of information. But the hard work starts when you leave ceremony, because now you're going back to your old life. All your habits in where you live, and you need to live an ordinary life in a non-ordinary way.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people don't understand that, do they, when they do try these things? I used to see a lot of it online. I don't anymore. I don't know if that's because I don't click on it or whatever, but I don't really see anything nowadays of people going off doing these type of things. And like you said, I think they can read a book or just go on a ceremony. It's the same with everything, and it just go on a ceremony, and because they had quite a nice experience, think that then they can do it as well and hold that space for someone. I just thought, yeah, I definitely would need somebody that I could trust to be able to do that. I don't put myself forward lightly, if you know what I mean, to do anything.
same.
Yeah.
The only reason I went to the Amazon was because I was with Ross.
Yeah.
I trust him with my life, and that's exactly how it is. Like, as soon as that ceremony opens, we're caretakers of people's souls. And unfortunately, there's, in some countries in South America, there can be abuse as well. Which again, it's not. People think shamans are all spiritual. It's power first.
Yes.
So you get your good ones and your bad ones.
Yeah.
So if somebody's gifted and they still want to manipulate people, they will.
Yeah.
So
Scary thought, isn't it?
Well, it's like, when I say the
Those that
business,
don't
this
do the work.
business,
Yeah.
same as like used cars. You're going to buy a used car. There's going to be a story behind it. You need to trust who's selling you the car.
Yeah.
So same with this work, more or less.
It's fascinating. So have you written a book or anything yourself? Is that something
I've been told to. I haven't. There's something coming, but I'm in for the work. I don't want to be a rock star. I don't want to be famous.
Yeah.
To me, I'd rather the work be known, which is why Three Worlds Shamanic Healing. I'm still me.
Yeah.
As a person, as a shaman, I'll do the best I can and do the best work. But I also am a human being. I have my frailties. I have my limitations, and I still like to have, not so much anymore, but I still like to have a beer and be real world.
Yeah, of course. But I think people would be quite fascinated with your stories. I mean, because like we were talking earlier about stuff. So if I can just go back to that. So we were talking about curses.
Yep.
And this is a subject, as I said to you, it's very, don't really spoke about over here. Nobody really talks about it. But I have put it up on my group. I think, or I have told people anyway, I've been working on one with my aunt, which I said to you earlier on. But you actually do work around curses and entities. And what else did you say it was? Implants?
Yeah, astral implants is
Yeah,
the new work that I've been
yeah,
introduced to. Curses are a favorite. I really enjoy breaking curses because there's detective work to it as well
yeah,
as the practical work.
yeah,
Yeah, exorcism work initiated into that as well. That's work that I would never have looked for. It
yeah.
sort of chose me. Um, it's not so fun, not so easy, but it's, to me, the most important part is to bring back the quality of life. That's really what the work's about. Um, but yeah, this astral implant stuff is very interesting.
Mm.
As I explained before, which I guess I'll explain
Yeah.
here. I I have a healing team that is dimensional beings. They're not so much spirit helpers as in like a power animal, though I have that help as well.
Mm.
These are very celestial beings, and they explain to me that we are on a bandwidth,
Mm.
and I say these words just as an abstract to comprehend.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so the bandwidth is, when I asked what the energy was, the signature, they said that us humans would call it love.
Mm.
So there's the green love, love of jealousy, love of envy. Then you've got your unconditional love, which is the pink. And then the next one up is a silver bandwidth, which was described as galactic love. And then the gold bandwidth, which was described as universal love. And then the bright white, sparkly white, which is described as divine love.
Mm.
And we sit on that bandwidth and we're connected to it, and we can move up and down to that bandwidth. Though the gold can't reach down to us unless we reach up to it.
Yeah.
There's that benevolence. So the lords of karma live up in like that bandwidth. The silver bandwidth is the galactic.
Mm.
So this is where the dimensional beings have access to our energetic structure,
Yeah.
where be it the aura, like fourth and fifth D, the aura and the Hara line. So as they've got access to this, and as I've been finding out with this new work,
Mm.
is there's implants can be put in our energy field,
Yeah.
and those implants are directly effective to our sense of well-being. And as I described, the way I go about clearing these implants out, I work on the 7 physical chakras, the first seven of the body, and then the 5 that are above the head, or the invisible world ones. So there's 12 all up as a basic.
Mm.
There could be anywhere between 2, 3, or a dozen on each chakra level, or on each level.
Yeah.
Um, and to me, that's kind of fascinating, but it's also what I considered pretty nefarious.
Mm.
So something can be sitting 2 meters away from you in your energy field,
Yeah.
and healers will come up and work on the body and miss it completely.
Yeah.
And that has effect,
Yeah.
a lot stronger effect than people would maybe want to realize. I had a bit of a joke with a friend saying that if the nefarious ones have manipulated the planet into consumerism, what's the chances that these implants affect our wants and our needs to consume?
Mm.
So after doing it for myself, I had what you'd say, well, ayahuasca told me straight up, it was a soft drink, a soda addiction. Since clearing myself of the implants, I'm not fussed anymore.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I would maybe have looked at in terms of need or a want, which are just not even consequential
Mm.
anymore.
But could that be the same then for somebody that's maybe got a drink problem? Like it feels a bit an alcoholic, to put it bluntly. Would you
Well,
think?
our cool is its own spirit.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose so.
I have a friend
I
from
get what you're
Australia.
saying.
She's been training in the jungle. She came up against the spirit, well, not against the spirit of alcohol, but got to see it.
Mm,
And it was said to her, you know, like, are you sure you want to get rid of me? I make you funny. I give you confidence. We're good friends.
mm,
And she's like, no, got to go. So again, it's the invisible world that nourishes the physical world. And if people are smoking marijuana and they're not even thinking about the spirit, because there's a very powerful spirit to it,
yeah,
she'll get hooks in you for attention to make you acknowledge.
mm,
But also, I I tend to think of try and keep it simple. When we have trauma, whether
mm,
emotional, mental, physical, even spiritual trauma, we can fracture off, and that leaves our energy system weak, cracked, leaking energy. People
mm,
usually try and fill those holes up with addictive behavior or substance.
yeah,
So even in just recently a retreat, you know, I was just having a bit of a think and realized that when we're in a really bad place from trauma, and I've been there myself, you're going through such a hard time. Anything that gives you a bit of a respite
yeah,
or gets you away from that is not a bad thing. But in a broader picture, once you've done your healing and you have a different perspective on your own sense of being and what goes on, you realize that maybe these things that you were using to keep on top of the pain were as destructive as that self-destructive tendency of the pain.
yeah.
Um, and it's not good or bad, right or wrong. This is about being a human.
Mm. It's about taking back the
Entities,
control, isn't it? From once you get to a better place, I suppose.
well, my Aboriginal elders used to tell me stories like hindsight is a funny friend. He's
Mm.
never there when the shit goes down, but later on he'll tell you everything that happened.
Yeah.
Um, and we're humans. We're here to experience good and bad, happy, sad, anger, peace. We're
Mm.
not saints. If the whole planet could be saints, I don't think there'd be that many souls wanting to incarnate here, because the gods get lazy also if it's all just good.
Yeah. Well, we only learn through the tough times, don't we? Unfortunately.
Yep. And
So,
it's you only change through two reasons: inspiration or desperation.
mm,
And 90% of the time it's desperation because you're just sick of it.
yeah. Yeah.
So as humans, I don't, you know, you can come to me with all your problems and all the bad things you've done, and it's not for me to judge you because it's not, one, I'm not in your shoes,
Mm,
but two, we all have different trauma. The traumas are definitely affect how we react to other things. And as souls, we come here to fix so much things. You know, like a group of friends were talking about incarnations.
mm,
How can one person incarnate, example being Hitler, to have this such a massive effect? And if he came to do a job, his job affected everybody. And then I said, oh, imagine the other 6 million souls that incarnated to pay off their karma through the camps and the persecution. So
mm,
we incarnate, we forget what's written on the contract.
yeah.
A great one was Ross in training. He said to me, you know, you chose your parents. I'm like, why would I do that? You know, like my dad, we're like this, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and he taught me something which is what I now call conception work. And he said it was the same title for the day. So you meet your parents before you're born, you meet them before they met each other, you meet them when they were children. So
Mm,
you understand the essence of that soul. And then you realize why you chose those people to incarnate through. So if people complain about their parents, I'm like, but you chose them.
Mm.
No one wins the blame game. We all have family karma, all
Yeah.
of us. And as souls, we're here to work through that contract,
Through
work
it.
that karma.
Well, of course, some people choose not to, don't they? They just decide that they don't want to see that person or have that interaction with a family member anymore. Well, I have done that work and done it in the Akashic records to change the outcome for the next time round. But surely, if you don't resolve it or learn to be okay with it in this life, you're then going to experience it again, aren't you, in another lifetime? Unless you've had, well, I have worked with people that had like 7, 8 lifetimes where it's the same thing, battling and battling and battling, and they just don't seem to be able to resolve it. So we just changed the contract in the end. They never were going to get it anyway. But is that something you would do as well, or would you say to somebody you need to try and work through that?
I believe in that contract.
Mm.
There's a lot of things that we miss in the print, maybe in the contract.
Yeah.
As before we incarnate, we have that list that may be things that we want to deal with, things that we want to come in balance with, or as we spoke about before, we've maybe done things in the past life to give us a skill set that we can become effective to help other people. That's always an issue. But I also understand that if you have people in your life that it doesn't work, you can also finish that contract, like tear it up in a very respective way. And if you're going to go back to being in essence, you might think, you both might meet up in essence. You've got no ego, so there's none of the crap that goes on between. And you might make the agreement, let's do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've had, like personal relationships where they've been karmic in that respect. And as a really good friend of mine said, one relationship is like, look, it wasn't so much as a relationship, you just ended an argument that was going on for lifetimes. And it was a power thing. It was very about a power thing. More an arm wrestle. I would say more an arm wrestle than a relationship. But in the end, I realized that if I could walk away, no matter how I felt in my heart towards this person, because it's not like I didn't hate them at all.
Yeah.
Like if anything, I still care. But for me to be able to walk away from that, and not be involved in that anymore, end that dynamic, then I'm coming back into my power also.
Yeah.
Which is part of the resolution of this.
Yeah.
Whether they want to resolve their part or whatever, that's not my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have free will.
We do.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like of a family dynamic where it can be very difficult, especially if you've got a very negative person and a very positive person, and then every time you get in the energy of the negative person, it's just you can imagine just hard work, a headache. But then I decided I obviously chose this person for a reason. There was probably a lesson there, and to work through it. And there's been many times that I've wanted to not, but I decided to stay in the lane and just work through it and just stay in my power and see it through to the end. Now, would you think that would be a good thing to do, in your opinion? Or should I just start and walked away from it?
From my own experience, a relationship is two people.
Yeah.
If two people want to change, the relationship will change. One can work really hard. If someone triggers me a lot, this is a really good way for me to learn of my own weaknesses. It's the petty tyrant. They're a really good opportunity to get over your own shit. Doesn't mean they have to change. Sometimes they choose to change. Sometimes they don't. So if you're staying in your lane and a car keeps trying to get in your lane, that's them, how they drive.
Yeah.
You do what you need to do
Mm.
for you to keep going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know
So
some people would go, I can't deal with that person. I can't have them in my life. I need to just distance myself, not having any contact with them. So look, it's a freedom of choice, I guess, isn't it? But I just thought to myself that if I stayed and did what I wanted to do, or what I think was right for me to do, then I wouldn't have to do this again another time. It would be resolve it in this whatever way. Well, it's about my energy really and my power, I
yep.
suppose. That's what I decided to choose out of it, is to work on that from it. Because I know that I work with people that have dynamics within the family, and depending on how bad it is to what advice I would give them, and what help them come to a conclusion, if you like, a decision that they want to make with it. Like you say, we either cut the contract, or we shift it slightly, or they decide to just do what I do and work through, and hopefully you get more of a positive outcome and don't have to repeat it again in another lifetime. And would you think that would be a resolution? So, like for other people, when they're listening to this, to be able to stick with something and see it through to the end. What would your
Tenacity's
take be on that?
tenacity and patience is something everybody cannot get enough of, especially when it comes to maybe personal work. But it can become drowning. It can really drain you out and take away your quality of life. When I work with clients, if there's issues between like family members, example, um, as I say, our parents are wonderful. They give us the gift of the life, but sometimes they also screw us up a little
Mm,
bit. I'll go and do work in terms of what I call the unspoken stuff, the unresolved.
mm,
So you bring that person in their as their in their higher self,
yeah.
and things can be resolved. But there's an energy that sits between people that is, it's physics. It's not,
Mm,
so much spirituality or woo woo. It's
yeah.
definitely physics. So, as an example, and I really only give examples of what I've experienced as well.
Yeah.
I had a dear friend of mine I've known since we're teenagers. He moved here to Europe, and his wife was divorcing him. And he knew that was going on, but he rang me up in tears saying he'd lost his best friend, which was his daughter. She was hating him.
Mm,
And I'm explaining to her, like, look, she's going to need the respect of a mother, so she will treat you the same as Lorraine's treating you, but she still needs the love of her father. She still needs your love. So we'll do this spoken stuff. And he said, oh, I talk to her every day in a photo. And I
yeah.
said, yeah, but the photo, she's going to be a child. We want to bring this current age to
Hmm.
deal with.
Yeah.
Did it. He got to say everything he needed to say. He got to give her the love, all that kind of stuff. 2 days later, he rings me up. He's like, how did you do it? She's now my best friend again. And
Yeah.
Lorraine doesn't know what happened.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, well, look, I didn't do it, Tony. You did it, but that's
Yeah.
the mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. We
if
do
you,
that.
yeah, you've got feelings about someone and you have thoughts about someone, it gets to them.
Yeah.
We're, you know, we're receivers, but we're also transmitters,
Yeah, it's just
which is,
working in that energy field, isn't it? That frequency
yeah,
of like bringing. We were talking earlier about the higher self, bringing them in, because yeah, I've noticed. Well, I do that in my work, and it does change the dynamics as well. But I think when it's closer to home, it's quite hard to do. To shift that, it's only temporary, and it seems to go back to the same space again. But hey, it is what it is, I guess. You just have to just keep on going forward and hope it resolves at some point.
I learned a valuable lesson when I was younger. I realized that if I have the same problem with different faces, it's my problem.
Yeah,
I can go through it here and okay, and then I have to go through it here and be okay. And as
yeah,
soon as I'm okay here and here, it's going to manifest here
Yeah.
to see how I respond. If I react the same all the time, I haven't figured it out here, and I definitely haven't figured it out here.
Mm.
If I can react to that problem differently, problem dissolves, doesn't come back.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you've got the same problem, different faces, people,
Well,
it's your problem.
yeah, then it becomes your problem. Yeah. Now there's that various people have the same problem with this person. Um, but perhaps when I go in and do the curse thing that we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
earlier, it may just lift their energy. It may shift it. Maybe that'll be the answer.
Well,
That
the
might,
forgiveness is a big one.
yeah,
And like I say to people, and again, something I learned for myself. When I was in Switzerland one year, and we're doing a retreat, and I was walking around. I'm like, I'm in the most beautiful place. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And then I thought, every boss that gave me problems or screwed me around, took advantage of me, all that kind of stuff, thank you, because
mm,
you've all got me here right now, and you're still stuck in the factory or the office.
yeah,
Um, when we can forgive people, we're not letting them off the hook.
yeah,
We're letting ourselves out of the cage of
yeah,
turmoil.
yeah. Well, believe in karma. So it gets resolved somewhere, doesn't it, along the line? So
Lords
yeah,
of karma are real.
yeah,
Um, and with this, as I described this new session,
yeah,
when I work with the bandwidth and the implants, part of that is also going into the bandwidths,
mm,
but also the last part is to go, or in the bandwidth, you get to see the Lords of Karma and ask for a message or advice, and then having a look at if you can get into the Akashic records
mm,
and see what's behind all this stuff.
yeah, yeah. Well, since our conversation that we had earlier before we come on, I actually think it's probably to do with the curse now. And once it can clear that, it will probably shift it.
Things change. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's amazing. Like that bad luck Johnny story I told you
yeah,
about.
yeah.
We called the fisherman in, and the reparation was done, and the apology was made. Everything stopped after that.
Mm,
And even on a couple of days ago, working with a client with a curse, straight up, you just feel that energy shift.
mm,
And you know, they describe it as they feel lighter, or they feel more peaceful, or it's clear, because there's just not that frequency that's
yeah,
hanging around,
yeah. Yeah,
which
I
I
think,
think is different to epigenetic trauma
yeah,
too.
that's what I mean. That's what we say over here. We call it generational
Yep.
stuff. And we're clear back down the generational line and things like that. But fundamentally, yeah, it is a curse, isn't it, that's been put on somewhere, going back to the beginning, as we said, and try and rectify it from there. But a lot of people do not realise that this is going on in the family dynamics, do they? They just think they're unlucky.
Well, again, it's that irony of, you choose that family for a reason. And like, honestly, some families are not nice. What goes on is not nice. There can be some, like, there can be abuse, there can be a lot of nasty things. But one, we're in free will. So the abuser can choose whether they are going to follow through on that abuse. Hurt people hurt people. Happy people don't hurt people. Healed people don't hurt people. So there is that, I won't say a trap, but there's that trauma line.
Yeah,
So what you think is normal maybe is not normal, or normal behavior maybe is not normal. But I do also believe that unless we're heavily possessed, or there's something big that's dominating our own power, our own thought process, or our own soul, most people know it's right or wrong. Whether you want to believe that it's right or wrong, different story.
mm,
You you could be doing something that you think is good for somebody, and you might be enabling them to
yeah,
stay in the state that they're in. Whereas the best thing to do is like walk away no matter how painful it is. But as people, with families, with friends, we need to have our own individual healthy boundaries.
Mm.
And those boundaries are putting up with behavior. You know, it's toleration or tolerance can be good if you don't want to rock the boat. But if you're tolerating and it's draining you and draining you and draining you, and it's just a perpetuation of a negative aspect, that tolerance is, that's part of the problem also. It's
Yeah.
hard to walk away from people sometimes. I used to think like some people are like, I never want to speak to my parents again. And it's like, well, that's your free will. But I'm sure you're going to carry around the hurt of why you're not speaking to them. And that's what you really need to get at. Doesn't mean you need to speak to them in the future.
Yeah.
Just because they're a part of your life doesn't mean they have to be in your life, which I guess is the end result.
Yeah.
We choose that boundary of who's in and who's out.
Yeah. Fascinating subjects, isn't it? So we was also talking earlier about how our work's just changed. And the reason why we sort of connected was because I posted that I saw a spaceship through the window a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I lose all track of time. And I was a bit wary about putting that up there. And I did have some really weird dreams and things happen after that. So I thought I will just put it out there. So I put it up on my group and we connected. But you've actually seen quite a few spaceships, haven't you, over your time?
Yeah, I've had a very strange life. It hasn't been exactly a normal life. Normal for me, but maybe not normal for other people. The visible and the invisible world are like this. They're intrinsically connected. At the moment, the frequencies are raising up so high that these dimensional beings have easier access to us. But we also, because of this frequencies raising up and people are waking up, so to speak, our perception is starting to open up also. So we can perceive these things maybe a little bit easier. And that's how it is at the moment. I've never experienced energy frequency like this.
Yeah.
I in the mid 20 teens, I was preparing for the grand conjunction in 2019 because I knew between 2019 and 2026 there was a foundation would be laid, and that would be a foundation to build on for 50 years, which would be a foundation for the next 200. This is like astrologically speaking. So everyone talked about Jupiter and Saturn conjuncting, but a lot of people didn't realize that behind that was Pluto. And the last time those three got together, the Renaissance was born. So I had great hopes that we could have a spiritual Renaissance. But what's the easiest way to stop people getting to enlightenment? Make them afraid. And we all know what happened in 2019 and 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
But that I've been watching as a timeline and as a frequency, and at the moment it was going like this, and now it's like that.
Yeah.
We're in such a point of change that we now no longer really have the decision. If you don't make the decision, it's going to be forced. Inspiration, desperation again. A lot of people are waking up that probably weren't so awake 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe people are understanding. There's a lot of people saying, I told you so, I told you so. That doesn't really help the problem. We just need to be there to support people as much as we can, being ears and emotional help, and also to try and explain things.
Yeah.
So for, I don't know, maybe the last 4 years, Pedro's been telling me I need to teach more. But I don't like to get up in front of the classroom. I'm not a rock star. I don't want to be, look at me, look at me. I'd rather do the work.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to understand now what I know about the energetics of the body, the
Yeah.
maintenance of the body, how these simple principles have a really strong effect.
Mm.
Um, I feel a little bit more responsible to get that out. So that's part of my work now as I'm doing more workshops in teaching in
Yeah.
that respect.
Yeah, I think definitely the teaching aspect of it has got to come into it just so people can understand what's going on. And for you to be able to explain it, and not everybody can explain this work, can they? Things that we do.
Yeah, it's when you work with the invisible world, it's hard for people to comprehend. It's only through their own experience that they're going to,
Yeah.
you know, we can talk about the recipe book, but it's the eating of the food that you get your
Mm.
actual experience of it. Like even with the Hara line, as we were talking about before,
Yeah.
if I could let everybody know that you've got your 3D and then you've got your chakra system, and if the chakras are the wheels that make up the aura, there's
Yeah.
an axle that goes from above your head to the core of the earth that connects you to heaven and earth. If everybody knew that how important that was just for a sense of well-being,
Yeah.
then the game starts to really improve
Yeah.
because we fish for people in a way. They don't know how to fish, so we fish and we give them the fish.
Yeah.
Now it's time we need to help them learn how to fish and show
Yeah.
them what they've got.
Yeah.
And that, to me, this is the most one of the poignant things for this point of time. Because
Yeah.
at the moment, consciousness is way more open than it was, and people are maybe willing to listen a bit more.
Yeah, that's why I think they're coming looking. So, like my guide said to me, I just need to step back and just relax in my energy, if you like, and people will be drawn to me
Yep.
and then be able to just give them the information or give them what they need. So I think that's why like the teaching bit is probably quite profound for you as well. So I guess we've all got to step back a bit from trying to, I don't know, what would you say, put the word out, if you like, or try and get clients or whatever the case may be. It's more of like just letting them know that this is what you do. And if they resonate with you, they come to you, and then you can explain how things are and what you can do for them, and they would be drawn to you for a reason. So I think all that stuff like before is like pushing and trying to get clients and getting people to sign up or book with you or whatever. I think that time's gone now, and we need more people like us that do explain stuff to people. So I think, yeah, I think you're on the right about your teaching, definitely.
Well, one of the workshops I do, which I call Back to the Body,
Yeah.
it's the techniques that I've been using for years to clear myself. Like it's everything that I would do before I see a client
Yeah.
and everything that I would do after I see a client
Absolutely. Yeah.
to keep me in tune. Because if I'm not clear, I'm going to be ineffective, or I could be infective, which
Yeah.
is not really good for our work.
Yeah.
Um, and it's practical, like sort of going back to the beginning of the conversation. The thing that I love about shamanic work is tens of thousands of years old and it's practical technique.
Mm.
That's why it's still relevant now because it works. It's not talking to someone for 3 hours hoping they'll get the point.
Yeah.
It's getting in, changing the frequency,
Doing it.
and then they understand through their own experience in the session. Um, and there's definite before and after feeling.
Yeah.
So, like even today, I was thinking we're sort of being a bit hoodwinked. To me, when the Library of Alexandria got destroyed over that 150 years, Western culture lost a lot.
Mm.
And it never impacted India or China or the East. They still have this knowledge pretty well up front.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, if everybody realized how much of other people's energy that they get just in that spatial situation, who would be so keen to jump on a train or live in the city?
Yeah.
And that's a bit of the hoodwink, is that what we take for granted as being normal, it's not very normal. Industrial Revolution was the big change for how we lived, not just for convenience of product or easier life and that kind of stuff, but it took us away from the land and put us in cities because we earned better money.
Yeah.
But those people that know when they live on the land, you don't need money. Well, now sort of we do, because it's a big
Yeah.
system. It's a
Yeah.
corporate global system.
Yeah.
But when you live and you work with the land, you don't spend so much money. Nothing beats walking in a forest or walking on the beach and just being back in nature. There's your energetic reset.
Yeah.
Come into town, that changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people understand like the energy work we have to do on ourselves to prepare beforehand, and then well, I know people I work with, my clients do, but and then the after effect of clearing everybody's energy. It's like a full-time job, isn't it, doing this?
Oh
So,
yeah. I have it's a bit of a fun joke that I have with myself, that I know it's a really good exorcism when the demon comes back that night in my dreams to bite. I know I've done my job right. You
oh
know,
dear.
um, it's maybe weird black Australian humor that we have. Um, but yeah, we deal with a lot. And like,
Yeah.
like Ross said to me, you take things off people that will try and eat you, and
Yeah.
they've gone out dancing, and you're sort
Yeah.
of now dealing with what you're
Absolutely.
dealing with.
Yeah. Oh, I've done some trauma work where it's taken me probably a week to get it out of my system. It's had such an impact, and it's probably because it had been years.
Yep.
They don't come to you when they're young, really, do they? They usually wait like 30, 40 years of trying to process it and deal with it until it's suddenly like a big thing, and then you've got to plow through all that. And I don't know about you, but I try not to energetically take some of this on, but I do. I can feel it, the energy in my body of trying to clear it. And
And that's all
sometimes it's just hard.
comes down to, you've got to be able to change our own frequency.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I've had a lot of different teachers, so I've got maybe a bit of a different skill set. But a lot of people also come to me as shamans have done things to them, or abused them,
Yeah.
or this, that, or the other. There's a classic one where I won't say what plant medicine it is, but
Right.
example being, so the
Yeah.
shaman in the ceremony put something in the person. That person's had a great time. They feel good. They go away. The shaman's like, oh, I've got my house payments to come up, turns up the volume. That person starts to freak out. The first person they go to is the shaman because he made them feel good. The shaman does a bit of work, turns the volume down, gets the money, and that person goes off. Oh, kids have got to go to the dentist. These are examples. Like, it's
Yeah.
not,
I get
no,
exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah. And then, so I've dealt with a lot of that, taking things out of people in that respect. Um, and the shaman, or the witch, or that practitioner knows what's going on, and they'll come straight up
Oh,
like, what are you
brilliant.
doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So, I'm not one for fights or wars or battles. That's not, I don't want to waste my time and energy on that. And it's not for me to be any better than anyone else. I just need to do my work the best I can.
Mm.
And at the moment, I have a client that part of their lesson was this situation. But the guy that's done the work, he's pissed because he's losing grip on somebody.
Yeah.
And I've been dealing with that. But again, I'm ignorance is bliss, maybe. Not saying I'm blasé and overconfident and stuff, but I do know what's behind me. I do know my lineage, and when I come up against a problem, they'll step forward as well. So like a bit of a funny story. We were at a retreat, and somebody came up and said, "Oh, I think this person's got something put in them because their face kept changing." So then that person came up and we talked, and it was this situation with another shaman. And I said, "Look, I'll give it a go." He's like, "Oh, look, he's powerful. He's got a powerful teacher." And it's like, well, I don't really care about them. I'm not going to be concerned because I'm just going to do the best I can.
Yeah.
So that was maybe set for a couple of hours later. While I was in the bathroom, literally having a pee, all of a sudden there's these Aboriginal warriors were standing around me. And I looked and I thought, okay, so now you're here. And they were laughing at me, like they're very funny. Like Spirit is quite funny and humorous. And they know that they're standing there, and I realize that I'm having a pee and it's a bit embarrassing. And then I realize, oh, you're here for the job. And they're like, yeah, exactly. Oh, okay, sweet. So we did the job, and straight away, as soon as I started to do the work, the shaman came forward, and then his teacher came forward, and then some Jivaro Indians from the Amazon came forward. My Aboriginal warrior friends came out. They went up on either side, and I could hear the fight. It was amazing to listen to and know that was going on, but I still had to focus on my job. So in the end, the Jivaro took off, the teacher left, and then the shaman's like, "Who are you?" And I just said, I'm me, and I'm here for him. That's it. I'm no one special. Just you've got to go. So he's kind of left. And the Aboriginals were there dancing, and they're all happy and stuff. Later on, the client said, like, "Oh, don't take this the wrong way, but you look like nothing." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You look like more like an accountant than a shaman." And I'm like, "Well, that's the first trick. You're going to have beads and feathers and stuff in your hair. The expectation's going to be up." And again, I'm just me. My name's Darryl. It's not Red Fox, Hawkwind or anything. My name's Darryl, and I work as Three Worlds Shamanic Healing simply for the fact that's my work. I'm still me. So I'll dress how I dress. I'll be how I be. I don't need to show anyone what I'm doing, because that's not what it's about. It's the end result that gets the job done, not how many hours you can dance around singing.
Yeah. 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 I think I won't go there. And that is a bit of a wind up. When they've
There's a
got to
lot.
get up on.
There's a lot of things that could be said, and for people that are watching this, this is a funny business. It's a serious business. It's emotional. It's very deep and amazing. But when you get three practitioners around together, the stories that can come out can be really actually quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we've all had experiences.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you don't need to get up, do you? You just need to go about yourself and do your work, and you don't even have to be high profile to do your work. But yeah.
Ross said to me, he called me the 10-minute shaman. He goes, "You learn it in 10 minutes, you do it in 10 minutes, and 10 minutes later you want to go down to the pub for a beer."
Yeah.
Which we did. We like to do.
Yeah.
But that's it, get in,
Yeah.
get it done, and get on to the next one.
Yeah, definitely. Even I have a thing about some healers that call people back week after week, just taking their money. I mean, if you're any good at it, why don't you just done it? Just do it. That,
Exactly. I only see, like a lot of people, I only see once. And I'll never say to them, "Oh, you need to come back in 2 weeks." Like, it's not for me to put a gun to someone's head thinking they've still got something wrong. They've come to me for help. I'll do the best I can so that they leave in a better situation. I've had clients that do come back, and they've just gone deeper and deeper and deeper into the change. But that's their free will. It's not me. I don't believe in that Yeah, it's not McDonald's. You don't want return service. If someone keeps coming back, I'm not done my job effective enough.
Right. Yeah.
If it's the same problem, I'm not done my work.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but there are people out there that like a bit of return service.
Mm. Yeah,
Actually, they count on it.
yeah, they do. Yeah. Well, I think, say like if you're doing curses or generational clearing or whatever you're doing, then if they choose to come in and say they want to clear down different lines or do timeline collapsing or whatever they decide they want to do, that's up to them. Then they can come back and have a couple more sessions. But actually, on the healing front, it should only be one, maybe
Yeah.
two at a push, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I don't get why someone would need to keep coming back all the time. And that sort of thing does really wind me up. So I try not to say things like that on my group. Try and stay
Well, yeah,
positive.
yeah. If you've still got the same issue after sessions, then something's not done.
Yeah.
Um, I also know about, we call it the second attention. It's somebody that wants the attention,
Mm.
so they'll make up problems
Yeah.
for that attention. But as practitioners, we also understand that, and
Yeah.
we can help them. Why do you need that second attention? Let's talk to your dead mum or your dead dad.
Yeah.
But it's the old layer of onion skin. Some people come in, like one client that I've got, he was a pretty broken person. He's now back at work, and now he's going deeper and deeper and deeper so that he can help his family.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm surprised if he books a session, because I'm like, what's next?
Mm.
Like it's going to be fun, because
Yeah.
what do you want to get at? Like let's uncover something different.
Mm.
And that's where this job
Yeah.
is beautiful. It might be the same mechanism, but it's never the same story.
Yeah.
Never gets
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah, it's true. It's fascinating, isn't it? Some of the stuff that comes to light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it, when you see the end result? It's like we
Uh,
said before, it can be quite a difficult journey for us, isn't it, as healers to do this sort of work.
well, we've had to heal our own stuff first, and like we've had to find the pain, the uncomfortable things, the ugly parts of our own lives to get it done. Not everybody's a healer. Well, everybody's potentially a healer. Many are called.
Mm.
Very few get to the end, because it means a lot of sacrifice. It means a lot of deprivation of things. Like I knew in maybe my mid to late 20s, I probably wouldn't have a family, because my work wouldn't tend to be able to, one, provide for the family. I'm not rich.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this to get rich, like at all, because I wonder about rich shaman, what goes on there. But I also knew that I need to be free up in a certain context of my life.
Yeah.
And and the old joke with the mushroom ceremonies is, one of the caveats for the work is no sex 7 days before and no sex 7 days after. When I had a girlfriend, she was complaining, and like, because we were in retreat every weekend. So, and
Yeah.
I've got other friends that are also shaman and healers that are in the same situation. You want to become a boyfriend or a girlfriend to a healer or a shaman. One, understand that it's going to be a very, very different life. Two, do you want that person as they are as a person, or do you want a savior?
Mm.
Because that gets boring pretty quick. And three, just understand that they're going to ask you to put up with certain conditions that no one else will. And it's like with San Pedro, I had to be celibate for 3.5 years. That was a big ask.
Mm.
But if I didn't follow through on that, I wouldn't be able to do ceremony.
Mm.
It's not us that choose the spirits, it's the spirits that choose us. and we need to be accepted by them so that we do the work, because we're the hollow bone. We just hold the space, we hold the instruments, whatever. It's that the spirits that do the work. So yeah, it's a different life, but
Yeah.
I like it. It's taken me away from the beautiful beaches in Australia, which I sometimes wonder about. It's taken me away from certain foods that I like, but I can't, get involved in for various reasons. But it's seeing somebody's eyes shine that little bit brighter. You see their face change after you've taken out something that's been going crazy in them.
Yeah.
That's you can't be paid for that. And that's, again, the quality of life for people. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
So talking about, as before, we're talking about reincarnation. I had, when I was 19, I got a reading and I was told that I was a bad shaman in that in an incarnation. And I knew exactly what she was saying because I'd done regression work and I'd seen that being back into that life.
Yeah.
And these people were very happy they had me, and they weren't that nice to me either, and in my own demise. So maybe I think this time I'm doing the same job, but instead of being not the nice one, now I'm bringing up the balance because I want to help people. This work, it's bigger than us.
Well, it wouldn't be the first rodeo, would it? We would have had to have done it a few times down the line, I would expect.
Yeah. To be able to pick it up in 10 minutes, you've got to know something's happened before.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the soul, People sometimes forget that what they loved to do as a kid was their soul. Their soul was loving to do. So they get told you've got to be an accountant, you've got to, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do the other. And all of a sudden the time's taken up and you don't get to do this activity. Like a very beautiful dear friend today, we're talking earlier today, and, we're in our 50s. She's now back to roller skating and loves it. And that's the soul. She would dream about it.
Yeah.
Just because you're 50 doesn't mean you can't put roller skates on.
Exactly.
You might have to put a few pads on because we don't bounce so well anymore.
You might hurt the next day.
You might hurt the next day, yeah. But the soul wants to do things, and that's what will keep you. 10 minutes of doing that a week can keep you happy for the whole week of things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And we can't forget that because we are souls. Well, pardon that expression, but we are all souls.
Yeah.
Dark humor.
Brilliant. So where can people find you? So where do you do your retreats then? I know you go different countries.
I usually, at this point, I usually go take bookings, like I'm hired from in other countries. I'm always contactable through email. My website at the moment is a little bit ugly and down.
But it can get you through three shamanic center.
Three Worlds Shamanic Healing is a page on Facebook and also a profile on Facebook. The number 3 worlds info@gmail.com is also a way to contact me. Or I could give you my WhatsApp number also if people wanted to.
Okay, you can put all that on the links down below. So the 3 worlds, is that your centre or is that a group of people?
That's not so much as a centre because I work from distance. I do have a room here in Stockholm that I work out of. But 3 World Shamanic Healing was just something that I developed for the work, because me being me, some people were disappointed with my humor or what I would find to be irreverent. So that's the work side of things. Because there's still Daryl Guy, the idiot person. being normal, because you've got, if a shaman has 1 foot in the visible world, 1 foot in the invisible world, when you're in the visible world, you still need to be a human.
Yeah.
You know, I've still got things that I like to do as a human, and there's no way I'm going to lose contact with that, because then I've lost contact with people.
Yeah.
And you know,
So
pardon the expression, but we don't want to disappear up our own ass.
So where can they find you in the near future? Where will you be, apart from getting hold of you online and emailing you and stuff? What where are you doing retreats and things like that?
I'll be working in Hungary in
Okay.
a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The year's kind of wound down a bit, and I'm starting to. It's now time to organise for next year.
Yeah.
Switzerland, work in Switzerland, Hungary. If there's people that want to organise retreats, they can get in touch, like in the UK,
Yeah.
or other places. Unfortunately, because of the big pharma's got the hand in the lawmaking, plant medicine's not exactly the most legal thing.
I was going to say, how do you get that over?
Unfortunately, well, it's not so much about how do you get it over. We know that it's a problem. We know that we take risks doing the work, but again, it's just the risk is maybe worth it in terms of helping people, because we're not there for a party. Anyone that comes to a ceremony retreat, they understand you're not there to dance around and have fun.
Yeah.
It's tough work. The law doesn't understand that, but there's a big difference between a ceremony and a rave, put it that way. Yeah, and I have a newsletter that I put out occasionally. Probably should be more often than late.
Well, this is a problem. When you're busy, how do you have time to do all this stuff?
Yeah, well,
you don't.
You do what you can do, and just tell people that it's coming soon, and get on and try to do that. Yeah. But you know, people can contact me, and I can sort of let them know if there's things available. Got like a Telegram group as well, that I usually put out what's going on there. I'd like to do more in where I am at the moment, but again, it comes down to logistics, essentially. I do private work, one-to-one private work with the medicine and without plant medicine. My one-to-one sessions can also be done by distance, because that's the shaman secret, is that we can work by distance, and it's like this as well. So we get to talk, and you know, with the tree and stuff. Or there's one-to-one work. So occasionally I might go, if the space is afforded, I can go to another country and do a week of sessions, or 2 or 3 days of sessions, to help people on the one-to-one stuff. So ceremony's wonderful. You can get a lot done. But in ceremony, I can't work the same as I work a one-to-one session, because one, I've got to take care of the space and anything between, say, 2, 6, or 20 people. And the one-to-one work is very pinpointed. Well, as you know, you can get a lot done in that very intimate situation.
I think some of my people would be interested in the ceremony, though. I think they would like that. They'll find it interesting, and they probably, after our conversation, feel a bit more at ease at actually doing some plant medicine now. So
there are some people that I trust, that I work with, especially with ayahuasca. I won't work with people I don't trust, put it that way.
Of course. Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's things that can be done. Never say never.
Yeah. Well, you have to keep me updated, or when you're doing stuff over there, so that we can get a few people to come over and do some work with you over there. That would be really good.
Everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
As I say, have a reason, have intention.
Yeah.
Try and lose your expectation, because the only gift of expectation is disappointment. And get ready for something that you didn't expect.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I mean, we might be able to find you somewhere over here that you can come and do it. I know there's a lot of people that are on my group that keep quiet. So you never know who's going to reach out to you after today to invite
Well,
you to
yeah,
do
and
something.
that's totally understandable because this is not normal work. It's nothing that you really want to shout from the rooftops that you're doing. Maybe if like Ross had a center in Peru, so
Yeah.
that was, he could openly speak about it because he had somewhere that was legal for ayahuasca.
Is that not there anymore?
Well, Ross is not here anymore,
Yeah, so it's not there.
so I wouldn't trust who would be there,
Oh, okay, I
maybe
get you.
in the
Yeah,
same ways that I trusted Ross.
yeah.
Though if you're interested, there are people that I've been in contact with from Brazil that will be in Hungary at the end of November
Okay,
for the mother,
interesting. Yeah,
and they're quality enough that I would sit in on them. I would
yeah.
participate with them.
You would? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. You have to pass me the details.
So yeah, we'll yeah, we can talk about that
Yeah,
when
that'll be
records
cool.
pressed off.
Yeah, well, I'll press the stop button in a minute. So thank you ever so much for your time today. It's absolutely been fascinating. I'm sure people are going to love listening to this one. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us all. It's been
Thanks for
great.
the invitation and thanks for having me, Tracy. It's always a pleasure and honor. And like I told you early on, my dad said I could talk the rust off iron, so we talk a fair
We
bit.
have been online a while, but it's been great.
Yep. Yeah. Anytime, it's all fun. And to me, I'm as upfront as can be because people would want to know at the moment.
Yeah,
Secret squirrel time is over.
yes, definitely. Right, and with that, I will say thank you, and I shall
Thank you.
end the recording. So I'll
Have a
put
beautiful
everything,
evening
yeah, I'll put everything below so people can find you, okay?
and bliss and bless people. You know, I hope you're having a nice week or weekend whenever you see it.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.